Ruth Wieder is a performer, voice artist, and healer. According to Ruth, vocal expressions are the most accessible tool of communication. Her work focuses on how to allow everyone, not only singers, to discover their own unique voice, and teaches us how to create the entire range of emotional, artistic, and intellectual identities with sounds coming from deep within our throats.
That's really great, Renee. You want to try it higher? And now we're letting our voice kind of gently enter into the area of our heart. You take two colors, two contrasting colors. You put in your voice.
The students are asked to depict themselves in one color and their voice in another. At the end of the lesson, they repeat the process.
I want you to give one word for what the process
I was there to witness nothing short of a simple yet magical miracle taking place in front of me as the students came to recognize the change.
Embrace, shining out, opening.
In Ruth's work, there is a use of the different levels of sound. Just as there are different words, there are different sounds that if you could give a meaning to them, then you would call them a word. But the reason that we have music, right? The reason that we have singing is because it expresses something which we can't put into words. And so Ruth has developed that something which you can't put into words into specific sounds. So when she sings an ah, for example, it opens up something in the heart. When she sings an e, it does something to the crown, to the crown chakra. And in a way, she's healing herself. But through healing herself, she's also healing her listeners.
I met Ruth at her house on the edge of a village in the mountains surrounding Jerusalem. An orchard of fruit trees and an herb garden surround the house and make it look as if it still belonged in biblical times.
We're going to the kitchen. So, you know, when you prepare food, it satisfies hunger. Mm-hmm. Oh, this one's not so.
Sometimes it's very tasty.
Yeah. Okay, let's get that.
So what's your method of work? What is it exactly that you do?
It's understanding place, first of all, okay? Understanding the relationship of voice and place. How voice is affected by space. Okay? In fact, how voice creates space. It's a dialogue. That's the incredible thing. Okay? It's a dialogue. In some way, our voices create the world. Okay? The world reverberates in our voices, but in some ways we're the creator. So it's understanding that dynamic. The other is, how do you bring heart to this dynamic? Because this dynamic is science, okay, but we're about people, we're about humanity. Okay? How you bring heart to that dynamic, I call it praying. It's sounding with your heart. That's prayer. Okay? And it doesn't have to be formal prayer. In fact, mostly, it's not formal prayer, but it's understanding how everything that you sing, in fact, everything that you be, is a prayer.
The spring and the house in the foothills of Jerusalem both perfectly complement Ruth's way of life and work methods. Written text from several Jewish sources, prayers, and the Hebrew alphabet are her materials for creation.
I've had the luck or the merit to have very significant teachers, life-changing meetings for me. One of the teachers I met when I was 18, and I'd just come from Australia to Israel, and I was looking for my roots and what I'm doing here. I got to Mea Shearim, which is the most religious neighborhood in Israel, and somehow found a rabbi by the name of Rav Gedalia Koenig. Very beautiful man, intense, dark eyes, and he would open the book and he would start to read. And he wouldn't explain a thing. And from his voice, from the intonations of his voice, levels and levels of understanding would arise from within. Within voice and intention, I got to me 40, 50 years of study of Kabbalah that could never have got to me by teaching on a logical level. And that lit a light for me.
The encounter with Jewish text proved to be a moving experience. When Rabbi Gedalia read the famous story about the 7 beggars, one of which stuttered but turned his disability into a great ability, Ruth knew in her heart that this was her direction in life.
I went to the south of France to study with a theatre group called Roy Hart Theatre, based on a method that was created by Alfred Wolfson between the wars in Germany. And when he was in the trenches in World War I, he heard voices that he'd never heard before. And he realized that the capacity for sound within the human being is far, far greater than what is realized in ordinary speech or ordinary song. And he felt very strongly that the capacity to be had to do with your capacity to sound. That if you could sound something, then it opened up your capacity to be or to live. And this is what the theatre was based on extending the range of the voice to every possibility that you can imagine. There is no sound that we didn't try to make or didn't attempt to make, from as low as you could possibly imagine to the highest squeaks, to all kinds of screams, but also the beauty within a broken sound. Okay, and not to be afraid of it, to go into the broken sound and to understand its beauty and its release. After I studied there, I think, there was almost no sound that I couldn't do.
Gabriella is not just Ruth's sister, but also her partner on her artistic path. Together with a few other women, they created the theater company Jerusalem.
Well, Ruth and I have actually known each other for all our lives. In fact, I remember when Ruth was born, she was a premature child, and I couldn't go into the hospital to see her. So my father allowed me to go around the back and look in the window. He put a box for me to see my little sister. So, and I remember her head was about as big as an apple. Our work together is a very natural thing on the one hand. On the other hand, it's not so easy to work with your sister. It's not so easy to work with a member of your family. But the framework that we created, Theatre Company Jerusalem, and the fact that other people work with us somehow balances this work. It's very interesting that we both started from some kind of difficulty with speech, and we both had the same speech therapist in Australia, Miss Marie Boyers. I think this is interesting when you deal with healing, because people that have difficulties themselves sometimes understand how to help other people. My difficulty was with stuttering, and Ruti spoke very slowly. Now, Ruti still speaks a little bit slowly. I still stutter sometimes when I get very excited, but our parents took us to a speech, not a speech therapist, an elocutionist. And this woman taught us through poetry, which was a wonderful thing. Our parents were immigrants, and perhaps they didn't understand that, a speech therapist isn't the same as an elocutionist, but they made a fantastic mistake for us, because we were reciting Shakespeare, Walter de la Mare, T.S. Eliot, and in great works, you receive more than just the physical words. You receive the spirit behind it. And to receive this at the age of 5 or 6 is a wonderful gift. And I think our early connection, both mine and Ruth's, with great texts that in some way a young child of 5 or 6 cannot understand Shakespeare on a rational level, but you can understand something of the spirit through it. And that's why in our theatre we deal with these texts which are transcendental, really. And Ruth, when she sings these texts and prayers which are ancient and which carry within the words themselves a healing message. Because I believe in some way they were created to complete something that is missing in our lives.
Ruth's protege is Victoria Hanna, a singer and voice artist who trained with Ruth for a number of years and has become a world-renowned artist. Like Ruth, Victoria also suffered from speech impediments in childhood and turned her voice into her art. Like Ruth, she lives near Jerusalem and finds inspiration for her work, text, and prayers from Jewish origin.
I was born in Jerusalem. I was raised in an Orthodox family. My father is a rabbi. As a child, I had speech problems. I was stuttering. Till now, you can hear it from time to time. And children were laughing at me, making jokes. And I remember myself, Jerusalem is full of stones, going immediately on a stone and singing, directing my voice directly to the sky, to God, that He would help me. Hashem Elokai, shivati elecha, vatirpaeni. They were looking at me, and they were completely quiet. They stopped. And I knew that the only one that can help me with all of this bad energy that comes from the kids is to send my voice up to the sky and send an SOS call. You know, people are thinking many, many wrong things about the voice, because they are taught that if they are singing, they have to stand or to get ready and to sing. This is not what it is. Your voice is within you. If you're swallowing, the voice starts from this place. If you're smelling, you're taking the flower, you're smelling it. And this is a voice. And from this all of the songs in the world of your own voice can come. And there are so many songs within each one of us that we don't know. And just to allow this place, to allow this channel to come out, it's a big discovery for everyone. And you can send your voice everywhere to the space around you. And when you get into this consciousness of space, something happened to the voice. When I came to her the first time, I was this religious Orthodox girl that has a passion for voice, and I didn't even know that I'm singing and stuttering a lot, and I really don't know how to deal with it. It was bigger than me. And when I met Ruth, I was completely hypnotized by her. Every lesson, I remember that every lesson I came out was a new discovery. I remember myself growing up, and then I was always composing my songs, but she gave me a direction. She gave me a home, I would say. She gave me a home to my voice. She gave me a tool to deal with this energy. She gave me a recognition in this place, in this chapel within me. And she helped me to be myself. People around her will never sing like her. She has a very unique and amazing voice. Each one of them is singing his own voice. And she helped me to find my own voice.
Sometimes just allowing somebody to open their mouth and make a sound and have them hear that sound, you are opening the connection between sound, heart, and ear. And when that connection works for the first time, it is quite amazing, because a lot of people go around not listening to themselves. And why don't people listen to themselves? Because they don't want to hear themselves, because there is something in themselves that they don't like. So when this is opened and the person hears themselves and says, that sounds good.
In 1999, Ruth and Victoria were invited to perform for the Dalai Lama in Bangalore, India. It was the Holy Music Festival, and both artists were given an opportunity to demonstrate the deep power within the text and prayer melodies. Despite singing for people who don't understand their language, their voices become the essence of communication between all people.
Okay, so let's breathe a little bit. First of all, palms of hands. Okay, so we're waking up the palms of our hands, but also, in a sense, we're waking up our vocal expression through our hands. One of my big wounds, I think it's the wound in my being, is that my parents are Holocaust survivors. That means that behind me is a destruction, a wound that is actually unimaginable. I was brought up with behind knowing, my grandparents were killed, brothers were killed, cousins were killed. It's enormous. In some ways, I feel that in the Holocaust, humanity almost lost its merit to be. They're almost, we don't merit to go on, or humanity doesn't merit to go on after the evil that was revealed there. What my sense is that it's a kind of primal opening or tearing of humanity back to go, back to the primal chaos. And the question is, how do we create again? So within the voice work that I do, we go to very primal areas of expression and allow those primal sounds to be. Allow them to express, in a sense, the life force of what humanity is at its very source. Sometimes it can be quite scary, but the point is to be able to stand there and to hold it. And that standing and holding is the healing. In my performances, I dare to sound these sounds. It takes quite a bit of courage because it's not easy for an audience to be confronted by that primal being. But over many years of work, I feel that I've learned how to do it. I've learned how to express from there, and that it's a healing process for the audience to hear.
A great director once said to me The sign of a good performance is if the audience leaves the theatre other than when it came in. And we've been blessed. I believe I've been blessed because a lot of people have said to us, you know, we saw you, you changed my life.
One of the goals of Theatre Company Jerusalem is to liberate the female voice from thousands of years of oppression.
I feel that one of the big things that need to be healed in our society is the silencing of the female voice. And that has very many aspects. Do you know that in many, many traditions, it was forbidden for women to sing holy songs? I mean, can you imagine that? Where is that healing prayer of women? And it belongs to women. So much healing is about reclaiming that voice that was taken away from us. And it's not just a physical voice, it's the silences of women in their place in society, beyond the family. Her family is very strong and is very, very meaningful. But where is woman's voice beyond this or outside of the family? It's held inside with such a wound. So within the voice work that I do, we go to very primal areas of expression.
My encounter with Ruth has inspired my imagination. In her personality and biography, I find a strong collaboration between a healing method and an artistry. I think of the voice, wondering how the simple sound produced in our throat carries within it a creation, a genesis, and the depths of the human soul.
Ba-da-boom.